So it looks like we're going to be having a conversation again about potential investment in Manchester United. And that word investment is what I'm talking about here. I don't think I'm speaking about any sort of potential full takeover. United are sold. Yeah, that's called exaggerating the headlines. Everyone seems to do it. I try and avoid it. What I'm going to do in this video is run through what's actually been reported, explain exactly who he is and where the reports have come from and why this may well have a little bit more legitimacy than usual because of who said them. And also run through the different potential options that investment could actually mean. You can let me know what you think in the comments. All right, let's get into this one. Let's waste absolutely no time. So this is where the reports have come from, okay? It's Turki Al-Sheikh. I'll explain who he is, but this is what he said. He said, the happiest news I heard today is that Manchester United is now in an advanced stage of finalising a deal to sell to a new investor. I hope they're better than the previous owners. He is the chairman of the board of directors the General Entertainment Authority in Saudi Arabia. He's a minister in the royal court, and he is very much the face of Saudi sports investment. All right, that's him between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. That's him alongside Cristiano Ronaldo at a Saudi boxing event. That's him shaking hands with Triple H after after WrestleMania announced that they're going to be having WWE announced there's going to be WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. That's him sat between all the biggest tennis players as part of the announcement. It was called the Big Six, a new tennis tournament. There has been Saudi sports investment left, right, and center. So much of it, and he's very much the face of it. So I think that's why this has given some legitimacy to these reports and conversations, and why I think that we're having a conversation today. Not really sure why he just make it up out of nowhere. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. One thing I can state as a fact at this point is that we know that Man United will have been in talks with officials from Saudi because of the mid-season friendly. We've got all our midweeks free. We're going to be going to Saudi for a money-spinning tour in the exact same way that we went to Malaysia and Hong Kong at the end of last season. And we earned somewhere in the region of about $6 to $8 million. Reports suggest that we could earn up to £10 million by going to Saudi. Now, whether that would be playing Ronaldo's team and Darwin Núñez's team, like was it Al Nassr and Al Ittihad, whether it would be just having a warm weather training camp and one game against the Saudi All-Star team, we don't know the ins and outs of it. But United would have been in conversations with Saudi representatives over this. And maybe, as part of that, these conversations have emerged. Maybe. But let's speak about what the reaction to it has been. The only person I've seen commenting on it is Stephen Ralston from Manchester Evening News. There's nothing from David Ornstein or Laurie Whitwell just yet, saying that United have been surprised at the claim of a fresh takeover bid. So let's speak through the hypotheticals. Let's say there is some credence to this. There is actually some truth in it. Are we going to be looking at a potential new investor in Manchester United? Ineos keeping their shares, Glazers keeping theirs actually, well, to a certain point, and are the new shares being released, which a Saudi investment, I don't think it could be the Public Investment Fund who own Newcastle, because I don't think they can own two clubs in the Premier League. Might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure that's like a non-competition clause or conflict of interest. So it would have to be like a private investor. They could technically come in as a third investor. I think that would be strange unless it's linked with a certain stadium, which I'll speak about next. The other two options. Could they buy Manchester United outright? That's the third option, I suppose. I don't see that as likely. Of course, they could offer the world. They've got so much money, it's just insane. They could offer the greedy Glazers the amount of money that it would take for them to sell. And I suppose Ineos probably would if the numbers were right as well. But I don't know what numbers you're talking about. They'd be phenomenal. I don't personally think that when it comes to Manchester United and Ineos' ownership so far, it's not a good short-term investment. Never has been, never was. It's going to be, Jim Ratcliffe's put in, 200, 300 of his own million of his own money. United is a long-term investment for Ineos. And I just don't think this is going to be a full takeover conversation. And I think the idea of adding in a third, I think that's too many cooks. I think that's a bit strange. Now, a lot of conversation is actually surrounding the idea of this Ratcliffe's right to refusal, the drag-along rights. I've tried to research into this, and I'll be honest, it's a little bit murky still. This is from the Manchester Evening News today that's saying that Ratcliffe still has the right to match any offer. And this is from an article that was written back in 2024 at the time of the takeover, with a little bit more detail from the actual tender article that was released to the Security and Exchange Commission. These are the official documents because United are a publicly limited company. You can read it down there in blue. But this is saying that Ratcliffe has that right to first refusal. And for Ratcliffe to retain a stake, if the Glazers look to sell in around 18 months' time, he would have to match the highest bid or lose his stake. And you can see down there in the bottom, if the sale occurs within 3 years, Ineos are going to have to receive at least $33 per share, which is how much they put in. So I'll be completely honest, I don't actually have full clarity on whether this right to first refusal exists still. There's kind of mixed messages as to whether or not it existed for the first 18 months after the takeover and then disappeared, or whether it's still in place. But it could be quite important as part of anything to do with any investment. This is what feels most likely. That conversations revolve around the new stadium. The conversations revolve around big investment, to use that word there. And this is what I mean about, I don't think this is a conversation about a full takeover. I don't even think it will be a conversation about a minority investor, but I suppose the investment could go in different ways. It could well be that, again, we're speaking hypotheticals here, but how could it actually be the case if it's true? A Saudi investor could come in and take a percentage ownership of Manchester United in return for X amount of billions investment that's going to be going towards a stadium. They could probably own part of the stadium as another way of the investment going in. They could simply be talking about stadium naming rights. There's different avenues, different levels, different depths of investment that could happen toward the stadium. But for me, it feels like the most logical place where any sort of Saudi investment and the conversations around it would exist. Because I don't particularly think that Ineos right now will be wanting to have a conversation about selling. I think the Glazers would and always have been, and they will at the right price. I don't know what that price would be anymore, but I imagine it's probably gone up because of the new stadium conversations and all the land and everything that's involved in that now. But this is what's been reported. As I said, for the fact that this is the person who is the face of like Saudi sports investment, it gives probably a little bit more legitimacy to these reports, to these rumors and the conversations that are now going to be happening. They've been getting involved in sports left, right and centre, and the idea probably for them of investing in Manchester United's new stadium or investing in Manchester United is going to be something that definitely appeals to Saudi investors. We don't know exactly who, we don't know exactly how much, and we don't know what depth. But these are the reports. Could United be getting some Saudi Arabian investment? I think it's possible from a stadium perspective. I'm not saying it's impossible from an ownership perspective. Seems unlikely that Ineos would want to sell. The Glazers could pull them along, but the numbers would have to match up. It's going to be interesting to watch and see what David Ornstein and Laurie Whitwell and the likes of Andy Mitten say about this, because these are the reports covered. I just wanted to let you know.